So, how about we start with the easiest question of all, which is how to actually, I know everybody knows the answer to that, which is obviously how to use email marketing for events. But I think it's a fair question to start with before we dive into anything else. So, Akib, let me just hand over this question to you if you wanted to start about just lay the foundation for just waiting and how to start actually on email marketing with events.
Yeah. So in general, when people talk about email marketing for events, they just talk about promoting their events and getting registrations. But we all should understand that event marketing is not just getting registration. It is all at the end. There's the goal is something else. At the end, your goal is to get customers. At the end, your goal is to get revenue. And just getting registration will probably not help you. You need to see the full funnel of your events, right from registrations to attendees to feedback, and then further engaging them to make them your customer. So the number one mistake that most marketers do is that, hey, I have promoted the event, I got 100 plus registration and my work is done. So that should not be the case. You should see, hey, I got x a number of registration, but out of that 50% attended the event, and then 25% engaged with us, and then 10% purchased the product. And that's the main that should be the main goal of your email marketing for your event, and like in general for your event marketing as well. So there there needs to be like full funnel view of your event, as well as you need to understand who is going to attend your events, why are they going to attend your events, etc. And you should use email marketing to serve both those purposes.
Yeah, great. I also, what I could add there is that, well, when we think about actually, the who to reach out to, I always think about the first thing that we're going to when thinking about inviting people to the webinar is our own database, right? Because
Yeah,
every company, whether it's internal or they want to invite somebody who's maybe from their client base or look outside of their current database, that's the second segment. But we always start with people that we actually know and who like us, who are already familiar with the brand, with the communication. So yeah, that's one thing. And I always want to. I don't think we can stress that enough. That it's also not to overdo it, not to flood people with
yeah,
so much communication, too much spam,
yeah,
because like we get so many emails, right?
yeah,
So how do you? And obviously, this is a game of standing out of typical flow of emails that we get into our mailboxes. Do you have maybe some best practices that you as mail model, well, you're the experts of email marketing, so what would you say are some good practices that we could share here today
hmm,
to basically make our email marketing stand out?
hmm. Yeah, so you rightly pointed out that uh, when we are organizing events, we tend to send so many email communication to our users, and somehow it is feels like kind of spam and irritates them. So and it is problem of the system right now. Like you need to first send an email, then they have to go to your landing page and then register for that. Then again, you have to send a confirmation email. Then you have to send them a calendar invite. Then they have to accept that, then again you have to send them reminder emails, etc. Right?
Mhm.
So the whole the whole process demands several emails. So at Mailmodo, for example, we solve this problem by sending them one email where they can add register for the event and add the event to their calendar right from one email itself, using in our interactive AMP email feature. So with one email, uh, people will be able to register for the event, then add it, got it in their calendar itself, and then get reminded of this event uh, just because of one email. So the problem gets solved from there itself. So as you were asking about the best practices, so number one, I would say that use interactive AMP emails to send
Mhm.
emails where people can register and add to calendar then and there itself. Second best practices that I would suggest would be to uh, segment your users better. So there would be some registrations which would be already in your database, but there would be some new registration as well. So first of all, segment them differently and treat them differently, right? And further, even among all those registration, you should also have a view of who is actually going to engage with you further, or who are actually your ICP at the ideal customer persona. And you can ask them questions in the email like, hey, what businesses are you running? What position are you at, etc. Right from the email itself. Again, like our product can be pitched there, but uh, if you can ask them all of that within the email, it is like marvelous, and people will engage with it then and there. The third thing that you should try is like set the expectations beforehand for the event. So sending the agenda of the event beforehand, as well as asking them what they are looking from this event, and if you can ask them questions that they are going to look answer for from the event, that would be really great. And the last and the most important would be getting feedback after the event and
Mhm.
engaging them after the event so that they actually get to purchase your product at the end after some time.
Yeah, you touched a lot of points that I want to comment on. So I'll start maybe with the first one. When yeah, you mentioned that the segmentation and just how to basically make our emails stand out.
Mm.
And I preach to the choir. I really believe in that, and I think when I was also in the beginning talking about the persona and the segmentation and thinking about our database, I was
Yeah.
also thinking that now, with so many possibilities with interactive email and the possibilities of customization of the communication, it's crucial to use that in our email communication. And I think this is just a general rule, not only for event marketing, and whether it's inviting for an event or the post event communication. Just I think it's just a very general good practice to make the greatest use of that personalization.
Yeah.
Sometimes even those special, the simple thing as just adding the name of the person into the topic, subject of the email, the body of the email. But
Yeah.
it's also like when you mentioned the segmentation, and that's the clue. We know who we're marketing the event to. We know who we target. We know who we want to reach out to. And
Mm.
these people, if we think about and build the personas around that, we can
Yeah.
also create a very personalized communication that will truly speak to, well, preferably pain points that they have, that the, for example, event will solve.
Mm.
And I think that is, I mean, we all receive those emails, right? That I think nobody's immune to that, where you're thinking, okay, but this does not apply to me at all. Why is this person sending me this, right? So now when we have so many of that, it's so refreshing when you actually get something where you think like, oh wow, this person actually understands my work, or my interests, my possible challenges, and this is a great event or opportunity or a piece of content that
Mm.
I could use for that.
Yeah. So one point to add there is, even if you don't know about your users much, you can always ask them. And people like when
Mhm.
they are being asked, because it shows that you care for them and you're not just assuming things about them. That, hey, let's say you're sending me an email that, hey, you should attend this email with is this webinar with Akib Rahman, but am I really interested? Am I the right persona? You should ask me, right? And like, or what I should be I'm looking to get answers to, right? So if you ask those questions to your users will be, one, pleased, get engaged, and you will have the right idea how to structure your event better.
Oh yeah, definitely. And yeah, one thing that you touched in the previous section was segmentation and the personalization. And then second thing is also how we create a strategy. Because let's be honest, just sending an email, that's not an isolated activity, right? This is a part of a bigger strategy. And when I think about events, I always think that we use different channels for promotion and then also for the communication, because there are also people have their own personal preferences. Some prefer, email marketing, communication. We also get, different notification from the applications. We're receiving text messages and so on. So
Mm.
I think that it's very important to make sure that email marketing is a part of a bigger picture that
Yeah.
not as like either parallel to what we do on social media, or on with text messages or with push notifications, or cold calling, whatever form or channel we choose, but
Mm.
all those channels that actually complement each other, and they're not isolated. They just really speak to who, like, to the preferences, individual preferences of the users, and also how we're using the given channel for our communication.
Exactly. So no marketing is done well in isolation. You need to complement different channels with each other. You can't just make a social media post and expect that everybody will join your event. Or you can't just send one email and think that, hey, my job is done.
Mhm.
So you need to have a better strategy where you need to decide how you are going to bring registrations, how you're going to make sure that they attend your event, and how you use that content after the event as well, and finally how you engage and nurture the users to become your customers.
Yes, exactly. And we're here reaching to that point where the email marketing and, well, overall communicating with the attendees is not just inviting them to the event, right? Or we talked about also reminding them, because sometimes when we're thinking about a webinar or event, we can start our promotion long ahead, especially that these days there's so much of valuable content online that you really need something good, something unique, something of really good quality to actually push through and reach your audience and have them excited to join and to listen to what you have to say. But yeah, so maybe let's talk a little bit about that. So we just send one email, right? But that's
Hmm.
not the end, right? That's not, I've sent the email invitation and that's it. This is an obvious question, but I want us to just kind of say it out loud that it's not just one email, right?
Yeah. So in fact, if you realize, like most people don't just send one email; they just keep sending reminder, and expect people to join the event. That should not be a good strategy. A good strategy should be that first you segment your users, at least into segment that people who already know about you, or you already know them, and all the new registrations. Second, you should promote the registration event to all the first segment at least, and you you should use something like an add to calendar or registration within the email itself to reduce the friction for the user so that you get more registrations. Then you should make sure that the event is being added to their calendar. So at Mailmodo, we use AMP features for this to make sure that people get the event added in their calendar. So we have a widget inside the email where they can click on a link and the event will be added to their calendar. So number one email should be about registration. Second email should be asking for their preferences or what they are looking for from the event, so that will help the user get reminded of the event, as well as you will get the idea what you should be presenting during the event. And you can again use AMP features for that email by having a form inside email, and people can answer your questions then and there itself, or you can ask them to reply over your emails. uh, Third should be post event feedback, asking them questions about how the event was, what could be better, and more specific questions will help you make your events better for the next time. And after that, you should have a sequence of emails uh, consisting of your use cases, or something valuable to the users, but related to the topic that they attended, because you know that what they have been looking for, what their preferences are, and how you have segmented them, so you already know them. And according to those segments, if you can nurture them, that would be really great.
Yeah, that's true. I like, again, I'm coming back to this segmentation. I don't think I can escape that, but it is true. Like we touched also this spam issue, that thanks to the segmentation, we can also kind of limit that and just simply provide a better experience for people who already registered. Because like I I don't know if there's anything that annoys me more than, again, another invitation to something that I've already registered to, or that I already said that yes, I'm interested. But those things happen.
Yeah.
Um, what
Mhm.
I think, what I would like to add here too is that, when obviously we do the emails, for example, to invite people, to tell them a little bit more about the event. I love the part about nurturing, because after all, um, it's an event. It's not like an isolated occasion, and even happened, whether it's webinar or a bigger virtual conference, or even an in-person initiative. But
Mhm.
the relationship continues. It's either being nurtured by the event, or the maybe that's our first touch with some of the users, some of the contacts. So that post-event communication and the strategy to build around how to actually nurture the contacts that we're, for example, just getting to know, to maintain that's also crucial. But between all of those, there's also the part about the communication with the attendees that kind of helps them to understand better how to get around the event. And this is some of the best practices that we at 6Connects implement and always advise for our customers, is that whether you're doing an event online, or a webinar, or if it's an event that is at a venue, it's an in-person physical event, for a lot of people, this is going to be a completely new setting. It could be a new tool they're going to use to attend a webinar. It could be a completely new tool that they're a platform that they're going to use for like a bigger conference. Or it will be, a completely new physical place that they'll need to know how to get to, how to get around, where to go to a registration desk, where how to get to a given auditorium. And I know that in the very beginning of the virtual, maybe more intense virtual era of virtual events, we kind of sometimes forgot, as event organizers, that not everybody is, so tech savvy. We became tech savvy because, we were forced to. A lot of event marketers and even organizers, but it is so important to actually make sure that we care about the users and the attendees. We tell them, hey, we're going to do this event using, for example, 6Connects platform, and you're going to be able to join the event by clicking here. When you get there, follow these steps to, for example, attend a networking session, to maybe save a spot at a workshop, to maybe at an in-person event, how to reach a deal desk, sorry, a registration desk, how to get to an auditorium. Because this experience of like feeling lost, it's not only at in-person events and like where you're like, okay, where do I go now? It's
Yeah.
so also valid when it comes to virtual experience. So we're always recommending this, that use email communication to, for example, distribute some manuals, to just
Mm.
make sure that the users have a smooth very easy going experience with your event, and get them to learn how to use your tool. So I think that's also one of the things that are very important when thinking about email marketing, that it's not just about getting people to attend, even though obviously this is our first goal.
Hmm.
But after we've had them registered, we actually want them to attend the event, right? Because that's also one of the things that we wanted to talk about, that it's not just the registration, but the second question later is that after people register, how to get them to actually attend the event, right?
Exactly. I remember before COVID, most of the people were not even like familiar with these online events tool or webinar tools, right? And like traditional platforms which are not like made for creating these kinds of webinar or events, they made you do so much of work. You have to register. First on some landing page where you have to put first name, last name, email ID, and so many other details. Then you have to download the software. Then you have to click several links, and maybe some security issue will happen and you are not able to attend the event, and probably half of the event gets over with in that only. But products like Six Connects make it like really easy for the user, where people can just attend the whole event and do so much more, right? Like all the networking, etc., just like a real event. So I think that is something need to be considered as well. Like you mentioned, uh, make sure that you get good registration. You get good number of attendees as well, and make sure that they are able to see your event or attend your event. So those are the things that definitely matters, uh, and becomes necessary part of your funnel building.
Yeah, completely agree. And not that we're necessarily heading to the end of our discussion, but I do want to make sure that we touch the point of reporting. Because obviously, when we send all the communication, we build our email marketing around the event or anything actually. Um, I, I think that the saying that, the era of analytics within the world of marketing, it never left us. Like the analytics is always great on market, and it's always a skill that just simply has to be in our book, in our skill set, because whatever we do, um, we need to make sure that the reporting, the measurements are there, because after all, it's so tiring when you're doing something and then you're basically repeating the same mistakes, because like obviously a lot of people just look at some simple measurements about email marketing, like, I don't know, open rate or whatever, right? Which is very important, and I'm not saying no, but based on your experience, maybe I'll ask that: what do you think should be the metrics that everybody checks in on their list when they're just building their email campaigns for an event?
So there could be so many different metrics depending on your business goals. Your North Star metric should always be what your end business goal should be, and it should not be the vanity metric, just that how many people registered. Uh, like for example, registration does not ensure that you have good number of attendees as well, or registration does not have uh, ensure that you will have right type of attendees or
Mhm.
right type of registration who will help your business. So I think that first of all, you should start with your business goal. Like, hey, I'm doing this event because I want to achieve this goal by the end of this quarter or by the end of this year, etc. So you should start with that, and then you should break in several events, because people, your end goal may not be achieved by probably just one event, and maybe spread across multiple events, and it should could be a multi-touch activity for.
Mhm.
Then for each of these events, you should probably start with number of registration, but more than that, number of attendees are important, because anybody who can register, but if they are not attending the event, they probably are not that engaged. And most people I have seen that they don't attend because they just forget about the event itself. They don't know when the event is happening, and because they have so many other things to do, they probably forget it until unless it is on their calendar, right? So registration to attendees ratio, and then I would say that attendee to your engaged user ratio or repeat user ratio is also important. And at the end, how many of them are converting and giving you the end, helping you with the end goal. So I think you should create a funnel and track all the steps of the funnel that would be important.
Yes, agreed. I'm like, I really appreciate that you look at this, holistically throughout the campaign and not just like basically from the beginning of the campaign to the end of the event and beyond. And I think that this is a very challenging part, that the ratio like from registrant to attendee. I think it's something that a lot of event organizers struggle with these days because of something that we've already mentioned here, which is the saturation of market with valuable content. So that fight for actually the user for the attention is basically stronger and harder than ever. So I would definitely look into that too. But because of that, I think what is also important here is to make sure that we track what's happening with the content, especially for webinars. Obviously, like for in-person events, that would not be possible. But I'm talking about the content on demand. So for a lot of virtual events, what we do is that they're recorded and then they have a second life afterwards with the audience joining and catching up with the content that they may not have been able to catch for various reasons, right? Sometimes, as you said, people forget, people are busy. Sometimes you really want to see something, but it's just, I don't know, something happened. Your there's just so many life stories that could occur, that it's just so great that these days we have the opportunities and the technology, the solutions that allow us to actually access content that normally would be just once in a lifetime. You're either listening here or later on. So, or later not. And now I think it's also important that, we talked about the nurturing of the audience and also communicated with them post event. And one of those things is that we're going to have two groups of the audience after our event: those who registered and participated, and those who registered but for whatever reasons they did not make it to the session live. So let's just also keep in mind that these groups, they're completely different, but they're also very valid, because obviously we appreciate those who joined and who engage with the content. They listen to us. We want to nurture those relationships, but there are also those who gave us this initial interest. So they already told us with their RSVP that, hey, I'm interested in this content, but for different reasons I could not have seen it. But can I see it now, like in a more suitable time for me? And I used to get that before a lot, that people would ask, sorry, I won't be able to attend at this time, but like, will there be a recording provided so I can catch up on this later? And I think I have not been seeing these sorts of questions recently, because I think just everybody assumes that it's just like it's obvious. It's just that so incorporated in our brains and our just reality, that we assume that, okay, if I can't make it live, at least I know that I will be able to catch up and just see it later. So circling back to the reporting, I think it's also very important to make sure that we track how our content is living on demand.
Yeah. So uh, and like recording is just one thing that people expect that you would have. And as a marketer, you can also use and repurpose it in several different way. That maybe you can create a summary of the event, maybe you can share the presentation being used, or you can probably create a Twitter thread, etc. as well. So like how you use the event and the session that you just organized in your marketing, it all on you. And it becomes even more important that you just don't stop after organizing the event, and use it to make build a whole funnel and engage your users further.
Yes, 100%. And also measuring all of these, well, let's just start with the simple statement that around the event of whichever form and around the marketing communication of whatever channel, email included, there are thousands of data points that we can touch, measure, and then analyze and draw conclusions from. So, what I would say is let's really make sure that we use them to the fullest and actually yeah, and use them to make our communication better, because all sorts of statistics can tell us so many things. Like we talked about the open rate, we talked about maybe CTRs in the emails, we talked about the ratio between the registrant and attendee. So I think there's also a lot of things that we can draw from if we see, for example, just to something on top of my head, if we see like a very big difference in number between those who registered and those who attended, then we can start thinking about, okay, maybe there was not enough of communication in between, people forgot, or maybe the date in the end turned out not to be the good for them, the date or the timing, or maybe people had some problems to actually join really live. There's like a lot of things that we can just at least start analyzing from that. Or when we see, very small open rate, I mean, that's just screams, okay, change the title, right? Maybe pick your group, target group better.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just really want to stress that, I guess, to make sure that we we draw conclusions from the statistics, and they're not just there for the purpose of the reporting. We know that they're there and never look back, because it just doesn't work that way, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like looking at just one single metric is not sufficient, and like experiment. Second is that experimentation is important here. That you keep experimenting with your subject line, your content of the email, your event format, uh, maybe timing, date, etc. Everything. So and keep looking at the end goal that you want to achieve, and not just the like one insignificant in between metric. uh, and The more the number of steps you will have, you will see your funnel getting thinner more and more, because people will drop off at each step. So you need to have lesser number of steps as well in your whole funnel, and you need to keep optimizing for each of those steps.
Agreed. I have one more thing that I already have in mind that I want us to discuss, but we're already heading mercilessly to the top of the hour. So, well, at least in my time zone. So, I'm just gonna remind everybody to if you have any questions, please put them in the chat, and we're possibly going to have maybe one or two more questions that we already thought about. And if not, then we're probably gonna head towards the conclusions. But what I wanted to touch here and give everybody here a chance to maybe formulate a question, if there are any, is also the engagement, because I really liked what you mentioned about the communication before the event and how we can ask people for their suggestion. And I think that mm, this is also a way to include your audience into the creation of your event. because if you're engaged in something, you're kind of feeling it a little bit more personal. You're going to be more likely to actually attend it later. So here's a little idea on how to work on that registrant to attendee ratio.
Yeah.
You mentioned the option of, for example, this section about asking question, right? We're also
Yeah.
doing this with in the Six Connects with, for example, survey modules where you can simply send out the survey to your registrants and ask them, what sort of content you'd like to hear, or what sort of challenges you face, so that we focus on our event on those that are the most relevant for you. It's a
Yeah.
great way to actually simply have people engaged, have people interested even more in your event, and
Mm.
then also have that reflected on the at the event that is happening live. And then also, the whole engagement during the event is also important, because we're not just here to sit, maybe cook in the meantime, but like have people engaged, because like what really draws people is the experience. So we actually came up at Six Connects with a benchmark for attendee engagement, where we can simply measure the whole part of the engagement. It's something that our experts here come up with, and that just simply puts the event on the map on how actually people engaged and how it possibly translated into the event success. What would you say about the engagement part? Like, obviously we know about the this ask the question module.
Mm.
Do you see any other ways how we could use, for example, email marketing for that purposes?
Yeah, so we as a company